Sparks of Hope is a game designed to introduce young and new gamers to the tactics genre. It's a tactic, no pun intended, often played by Nintendo when they put Mario's face on something. Super Mario Kart on SNES was a way of easing players into F-Zero, but Mario Kart became the far more successful franchise, and it didn't make sense for Nintendo to have two of them, because why would you create competition with yourself? Now Sparks of Hope has come out, and it's the most accessible turn-based game I've ever played, aside from a few hiccups. Now, I don't mean accessible as easy, I mean accessible as uncomplicated, as there aren't a lot of character systems in Sparks of Hope. However, it doesn't need them, as the game is delightfully fun and rewards intelligent movements. But it makes it look bare bones by comparison when put next to something like Fire Emblem. I enjoyed Sparks of Hope very much, but I enjoyed it in the way I enjoy a Mario game, rather than a tactics game. Okay, so I only caught this once I had already mixed the music with the script, and I put it in here because I go on a rant about the lack of customizability, but apparently there's a whole character upgrades menu that I never found because it's set to auto-upgrade by default? Why? Unit builds are the best parts of TRPGs outside of combat. At least give me the option at the start. I feel like I have to replay the game now, but the release schedule will not let that happen for a while. The degree of customizability is limited to passive upgrades for your sparks, which you can swap between your characters. Unfortunately, that's about as far as you can go with character builds in Sparks of Hope. Still, the sparks have much more effect in battle than any of the combat arts in Three Houses, and something Sparks of Hope does much better. Despite the malnourished move pools, your turns in Sparks of Hope feel anything but limiting. It's amazing how much ground you can cover in this game, which is essential because positioning is one of the most critical aspects of victory. Getting your attackers into a position where they can slaughter as many enemies as possible is straightforward. What makes the game difficult is that it forces you to think ahead, or else you're left out in the open and swiftly defeated. So your aggression is limited by your cover and environment. Now, arena reviews are more for a world review, but tactics games have been playing more and more with the idea of verticality in their arena design. Team jumps render this annoying advantage opponents have over you useless. I always find it annoying to have to surmount a steep slope to take out some lone archers, and it's so incredibly gratifying to double jump directly on top of them and demolish their meager health pools. This is Sparks of Hope's most unique aspect in gameplay, its movement and how the range of your characters feels limitless. After all, what's a Mario game without platforming? The small party size of 3 is in line with the accessibility philosophy the game is trying to achieve, but it also robs Sparks of Hope of my favourite moment in TRPGs, coordination. The appeal to me of TRPGs is how I take a large group and strategically split them up into smaller groups to complete individual objectives, allowing other units to pick up the slack and cover weaknesses. Sparks of Hope has an interesting solution to that problem, and their answer is, what weaknesses? Your units feel incredibly bulky, and it isn't easy to actually lose unless you're not utilising cover. While this does fix the issue and further cement the goal of streamlining the game for newcomers, it robs Sparks of Hope of the best part of TRPGs, which I argue is a core part of the experience. That's not to say there's no synergy. On the contrary, the game is nothing but synergy, due to how it incentivizes grouping up, from the sparks and character buffs. The game clearly wants you to have a single unit party, and barrel through your opponents as you march forward. Then again, most enemy types have some form of AoE attack, so maybe it does want you to split up, but then why are the arenas so linear? And why does my entire party spawn in the same place? It isn't clear, but it adds choice to your playstyle, and choices are at the core of success to every TRPG. I love how Sparks of Hope meshes attacks and defense. In games like Fire Emblem, your only form of protection comes from being in a group, but Sparks of Hope allows you to play aggressively while still being able to defend yourself. This is once again a streamlining technique, but this time it's one with only positive effects. First, it takes away an annoying issue in standard TRPGs, and provides a solution that doesn't require extra thinking on the player's part. You seldom have to compromise between hitting your enemies and getting to cover, unless you're Rabid Mario. I've been a little picky about this game, and I've also been a little gatekeepery, but Sparks of Hope is an excellent choice for your first tactics game, except for one quality of life issue that it needs to include: conveying what your opponent will do. Most recent tactics games convey who the enemy is targeting, and some of them will even tell you the consequences of ignoring that action. Sparks of Hope oddly doesn't include this feature, and when combined with the insane range your characters share with the enemies, it can feel like attacks pile onto you from nowhere. It's not the biggest issue with the game, but it's something that goes against the mission statement of making the game more accessible. Sparks of Hope is a wonderful choice for your first tactics RPG, and if you're watching this video for a buyer's guide rather than an analysis, I thoroughly recommend it. Still, to players like myself, I don't enjoy this game as a tactical strategy game, more as a unique amalgamation, much like its premise, of tactics and platformer.